What's next for Gears of War? Hello, Gears and gaming fans, and welcome to the Gears Intel podcast once again. Summer is underway, and we're coming off the back of Games Showcase season, which brought us many exciting video games to see, but unfortunately no trailers, no reveals, and no images, no news, nothing for Gears of War. But there's going to be plenty to talk about today. In this showcase, post-showcase analysis and what's next for Gears of War chat. And as always, joining me today are my fellow Gears Intel panelists. First, he's recently been living a life of crime and debauchery in Liberty City, jacking vehicles, robbing gangs and leading the local police force on high-speed chases. Not too dissimilar from an average day in Aberdeenshire, really. It's David Smiley. Hello, David.
Well, I was actually going to say it's lucky you said Liberty City, because otherwise you would have just been describing like a Tuesday for Alex. That's what he spends his life doing down there. Yeah.
Hey, nobody in Saffron Walden has ever stabbed somebody through the eye with a butter knife, pal.
Oh, there's still time.
What was that
Outside
place?
the tilted wig.
What was that place we were talking about earlier this week, though? I bet you some debauchery goes on down there. It's like
Steeple Bumpstead?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll probably just be like the fishwife, bunking off with the vicar or something.
You could probably. Some of my Scottish friends, whenever we make a trip south of the wall, our one of our favourite things to do is point at English town names and say, "Ha ha ha, that's very English," and that is Steeple Bumpstead is really really up there.
Yeah,
Biggleswade's another one.
Biggleswade, that's a strong one.
Living in Dorset, obviously, like all of our villages and stuff are very Lord of the Rings and Lord of the Rings names and Shire-like.
Morpeth is probably the most Lord of the Rings sounding place I can think of off the top of my head, but that's opposite end of the country, right?
I live very close to Shitterton, which is a village just down the road from me.
Sorry?
I live very close to Shitterton, which was famous because, obviously, for its name, and everyone kept stealing the village sign, so they had to replace the village sign with basically a giant boulder that had the name carved into it so nobody could nick it. But yeah. You look it up on Google Maps.
So, okay, while we're on place names, sorry, do you have an intro to Alex?
I do, yeah. You have heard him already. Also with us, the Video Game Hall of Fame hosting 2005 video game draft, losing Banjo-Kazooie, blowing Human Gaming Encyclopedia. It's Alex Aldridge. There he is.
Horrible day to you all. In English summers and all that.
Sweltering.
Anyway, back to place names.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Scottish version of this game is looking at place names that sound nothing like how they're written down. So here's one for you. There's a place near me that is spelled Finzean. Can you tell me how that is pronounced in the old English tongue?
Finzen?
I'll say Finshane.
Fingen.
Not even close.
And then there's another one, Saushen.
Saushen.
Yeah.
Sousen.
I'll say Socken.
So it's got two names. Socken's one, and the other one is Strawn.
Nailed it. Which isn't even slightly similar.
Not even close.
That's my Scottish blood for you, mate. I got that one.
That is. You do actually have Scottish blood, though, don't you?
I have lots of awesome blood. Apparently, I am actually eligible to get an Italian citizenship, so I'm going to do that.
Get on it.
What are you waiting for?
I can get myself back in the EU, bruh.
Yeah,
apparently
right. I was going to say
4 years, but
flee this sinking ship.
Yeah, but then you'll flee a sinking ship onto an afloat ship, but one that is very, very hot. So may not be your best life choice.
I could also. I guess I could get an Irish one as well. So
I'd be keen for an Irish one.
My nan's mum, so my great grandma, was apparently half Irish, half Italian. So my nan
good combo.
Was quarter Italian, quarter Irish, half Scottish, I think. So yeah. So I'm definitely going to get an Italian passport. Hey, I don't know if that's Italian or not. I'm working on it.
Close enough.
Once I get the passport, it'll just come naturally. But until then, I'm just going to have to practice.
So my only non-Scottish blood is from Kent. My granddad's from Kent. So that's kind of down your neck of the woods, right?
Yeah, I used to work with a guy who lived in Kent, and I don't know why I worked with him, because he's miles away from here. But yeah.
Yeah, my mum often jokes I've got Mediterranean blood in me, but she says that just to wind my dad up, I think, because they used to go on holiday, like the Canary Islands quite a bit.
Or because she used to go to salsa dances without him.
Yeah.
Tennis lessons.
Tennis lessons.
So, yes, place names, blood and everything all put aside, we're back again. There is going to be some Xbox and Gears of War talk today. We're going to start with some gameplay talk, though. David, I alluded to it in the intro, but video game-wise, what are you playing at the moment? Let's have some gameplay talk. David, start with you.
I've been wanting to play GTA 4 for ages, so I thought, screw it. We're playing Banjo-Kazooie for the Resurrected Remanuju podcast, which means it's not a very long game, so I have some time to play a game of David's choice. So I've been bashing through some GTA 4, which has been a lovely little walk down memory lane. That is still a fun game. Controls-wise, it's quite old. Some of the mission structures quite outdated feeling, I would say, but for the most part, it is a fun old experience. And I was saying to Alex before, maybe on a previous podcast, maybe just in conversation, cannot remember. It all bleeds into one, but the story is okay. I'd say it's absolutely fine. It's good enough to sort of propel you through the game. But what's actually fun is the characters. It's just fun watching the characters interact with each other. So that's been my standout. From GTA 4.
I remember because it was the first one that had online, and it was like revolutionary that you could play GTA online.
Yeah.
And my main memory is just with my buddy Ryan just setting up like one of us flying in a helicopter while the other one would drive a car up a ramp to try and smash into the helicopter and stuff. None of the like,
playing your own version of Burnout.
Basically, yeah, and like recreating movie stunts, which is completely different to what GTA Online is now, which I've never like got into. Like I just can't.
No.
It never sat right with me, and I couldn't get into it. So, but GTA 4 Online, yeah, hours of fun in that one.
Yeah, I remember we did some Central Park rocket launchers only games.
Oh, nice!
Absolutely ludicrous.
Alex, before we get to you, what have I been playing? I've been playing Diablo 4. David and I chatted about this a bit on the pre-show. Excuse me. Never played a Diablo game before. I played a little bit of 3, but this is my first proper time playing a Diablo game, and it's completely hooked me. It's perfect for just kind of zoning out in the evening and just...
What are you playing it on?
So, what am I playing on? My Series X. So, yeah.
Okay.
Just kind of... And I was saying to David, like, it's something you can just have a podcast on while you're playing it and just like smash through a dungeon and stuff like that. The story is really good. The production value is really good. And the story was not something I thought would be like a high point of this game, because they generally aren't with these types of games. But
wouldn't have thought there was much of a story at all, to be honest.
Yeah. So, but good old Rod Ferguson, ex-Gears of War guy, is over there now running Diablo, and he's clearly doing a good job because I think the game has done very well. It's selling very well and got lots of praise. I've also been playing... It was my birthday last Thursday, and as a gift from my lovely wife, I got Sonic Origins Plus. Now, I didn't get it when it came out last year because I was waiting for the physical version. Then, when I went to buy the physical version, I had the horrible realization that my disc drive on my Series X is broken, and so I can't buy this digital versions.
I forgot that. Yeah.
So I had to buy the digital version, and what I think I'm probably going to do at some point is buy the physical for the Switch, because I have Sonic Mania on the Switch as well, which is a nice physical version. But I couldn't.
So do I.
Yeah, I wanted to get it on the Series X, so I did get it digital, and I've been smashing through that. My kid loves it as well, which is another reason I bought it, because it's just one of those things that I'm like passing down to him, and he loves Sonic now, and you can play it 2-player, and you do the versus mode on Sonic 2 and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been smashing that.
You really have set him up for a bad time. If he delves deep into Sonic, he's going to be cursing you for that.
Yeah, no, he's going to get to.
Why couldn't you have played Mario with me, Dad?
You've cursed your child.
So like Diablo just takes up most of my what little free gaming time I have, so it's mainly that. But yeah, Sonic Origins Plus, and then next week I'm waiting for AEW Fight Forever to come out, which I will definitely pick up. Alex, what about you? Gameplay, what you been up to?
Well, this was going to be the second thing I talk about, but I'll say it now because I went to a friend's house a couple of weekends ago, and we played hours and hours of the N64 wrestling games just to prepare ourselves, because we pre-ordered and preloaded Fight Forever weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's just been taunting us on our Xbox home screens. We want nothing more in our lives than AEW Fight Forever. So we played WCW NWO Revenge. We played a bit of WrestleMania 2000. Always battle royals.
Yeah.
But no over the top rope eliminations. So 40-man battle royales, pin only.
Oh god.
So we just sat there for like
the technology
over
to get
2
them over
hours.
the rope. It's just they couldn't get that into the game.
Oh no, we turned it off.
Yeah. Oh, okay,
turned it
fine.
off. It was there.
Yeah.
We just didn't want to do that.
Yeah, fair.
So, and then it gets to the stage where, you've been playing as Vince McMahon for about 20 minutes. You're like, can you just please just pin me? I don't want to do this anymore. He hasn't got any moves. That was good fun. But recently, like in the last couple of days, I've been playing, and I now can move on to the main part because me and my friend, same guy, have just gone halves on it. Final Fantasy 16 demo.
Oh, yes.
What a demo that is, by the way.
Am I going to have to pay attention to this? I've been quite happy ignoring this game, but my friends have started talking about it, and I keep hearing about this game and how good it is.
I'm hearing mixed things, to be fair.
Yeah, so I heard really good things. Like, I saw all the reviews are absolutely crazy for it, and I did hear that it's basically like Final Fantasy, but it's an actual action RPG. So I think the combat in it was headed up by one of the guys from Devil May Cry 5.
Right.
So that's what I've heard, is the actual RPG part of the game is quite
minimal,
not great.
Yeah.
But as a game, it's just fun to play.
Yeah. Which I think
I'm going to keep ignoring it. I can't do it.
I was just about to say, it's probably the Final Fantasy game you would like the most, because it is just like an action RPG, Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, with basically like a Game of Thrones style story. The demo, definitely try the demo out. It's like the first 2 hours of the game, and I was so gripped by the story that
you're trying to make me not play Yakuza. If there's a Japanese game that I'm going to fall down a hole with.
Yeah, good point. It's never going to be as good as that. But yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised. I did watch Skill Up's review, expecting him to completely gush over it, but he hates it.
Oh, does he?
Briefly sort of took a step back, and then my friend texted me this morning saying, I just want to buy Final Fantasy 16 now. Do you want to send me half the money and we'll do it? I was
you were standing on the edge of the cliff, managed to pull yourself back, and then your friend just came along behind you and drop kicked you off the cliff again, just as you almost saved yourself.
Yeah. But I think I'm going to really enjoy it, because if people don't like it because it's like a Final Fantasy, it's not like a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, that's what
Then the only one I've ever played is 7. I started trying to play 8 and found that really boring and convoluted. So if this is just going to play like Devil May Cry, but with a Game of Thrones narrative, and it's going to be quite linear, I'm fine with that. Because I think the combat in it's really good. And the story seems really good.
I was watching a video, and one thing that made me laugh is someone, it went to a QTE, and
those QTEs are a joke.
The QTE, he pressed the button, and it did like that Japanese game, like shing noise as he like swung at this dragon. And then underneath it came up like cinematic strike. What is that?
And you get about 10 seconds to press the button as well. And it's always the same button every time. I don't know why they bothered putting that in there. That's really stupid. But it's nice to hear some all English acting in it as well. They're set in medieval style England or whatever.
Okay.
And it's English people.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear that. I think it's going to be quite dry in terms of the dialogue and stuff.
Yeah.
I found the dialogue pretty good, but I've heard that it's not very lighthearted or fun at any point. It's just relentless, like epic medieval dragon shit. But yeah, I'm going to give that a go.
Good.
Hope it's good.
Right.
And I hope AEW Fight Forever doesn't let you down.
Oh no, it
won't.
It looks great, and like all the previews that I've seen of people say it's just a blast, and it's like a fun wrestling game, which I've been desperately in kind of need of.
Exactly. We're having a sleepover this. I say sleepover, but the guy that the same guy Ash that I've been talking about this whole time, he lives like round the corner from my parents, so I'm going to sleep in my parents' house. Yeah. But we're going to pretend. So 3 of us are going to all hang out. The 3 people that are going to AEW all in together. We're going to have an old school sleepover night and just play AEW all night long.
Perfect. Just
cannot wait. We don't even, it's the first wrestling game in ages where you don't have to go on to like the community creations and download loads of stuff.
Oh my god, yeah.
I don't have to go download MJF anymore. He's already in the game.
The worst thing about that is the menu is so slow and like loading between things and searching stuff. So it was like it would take you an hour to just get like a few things that you wanted. So yeah.
Do you remember they only let you do 20 in a day as well?
Yeah. What?
You can only download 20 wrestlers in 24 hours.
What is that about?
What?
Yeah, makes no sense. Yeah.
Nope.
Right. Anyway, let's move on. We do have. I said at the start, no Gears of War news. That was kind of a lie. There is some Gears of War news. Over to David in the Coghole, which we still don't have a theme for yet. I'm sorry. David, take it away.
I'm already down the Coghole, so feel free to jump in with me.
He was
So I
born
don't have to
in
shout
it, molded
out.
by it.
Well, since it's so hot, it's nice and cool down in the Coghole. It's just a bit
True.
damp and smelly as well. Right, Kelsey, you're going to have to keep me right with this. I'm going to try and I'm going to dive in because as we were discussing before we started recording this podcast, I don't think I understand what this news story is, but we'll try.
Yeah.
Essentially, players and fans of the Gears of War 3 in Judgment, Gears of War 3 in Judgment, have noticed that servers have started seeing activity that suggests that they've reverted to their original updated states. So things like achievements that had either gone away or changed have gone back to their how they were originally, and XP rates and stuff have reverted to their old broadly preferred styles. Is that correct? Things like that. VIP passes and things have come online. Playlists that were previous offline have come online as well. And this seems to have stealth launched or been stealth done without any sort of formal announcement from Microsoft or the people in charge of the Gears franchise.
Yeah.
Is that broadly correct?
That's basically the gist. So Ace McLeod, who is the person who
What a name.
found this and tweeted about it. So Ace McLeod is a mod, I think, on the Gears of War Discord. And yeah, essentially, so I think we had this issue when we did our Gears Judgment episode. There was some stuff that we couldn't play. And it's because a certain server that involved DLC, I guess, had just been switched off. And now it appears that that's been switched back on. And I said to David before we started that the reason I think this is interesting is because for Gears of War 3 and for Judgment, so this tells me that when I see this kind of housekeeping being done, I take it as a good sign. I take it as it's not an accident that this has happened. You know, someone has made a decision to bring this back online and get these. I think the stealth launching of it is to test and see if anyone gives a shit, and apparently people do. So I imagine it's their sort of way, because obviously they know that people want this collection and people love playing the old multiplayer. They still play it, but there was things missing. So there's no collection announced at the showcase, and they thought, well, maybe let's look at the old games. Is there anything we can do to clean them up, tidy them up? Is there anything missing? And they thought, stuff that just basically is minimal effort to them. So they've gone and switched them back on, given you access to achievements, and I think essentially it was some DLC map packs that you couldn't get to, and certain game modes were tied to those map packs, so that's why you couldn't play them. So it is kind of confusing, but it basically just gave you access to content that wasn't there for a while. This stuff that always dies off with games when things get switched off and legacy content just disappears. So to me, I took this as a good thing, because it says someone at the Coalition and at the studios and at Microsoft is doing things, is doing maintenance to Gears of War rather than just letting it rot and die. It's some games out there beg for this kind of just minimal tweaking to servers and things switched on, and it never gets done. So yeah, it's a small bit of news, but I just think it's positive, and it tells me that in the background stuff's happening and there's people there that care about this stuff, and they see and they monitor, what I guess the fan base thinks about it. And yeah, very positive reaction from the fan base. People are very happy that this stuff is back. Alex, I don't know if you had any thoughts on this sort of thing.
Yeah, you're right. It seems like an absolute free hit, right?
Yeah.
It costs them very little time and effort to do it, and it's always going to go down well if you bring things back to how they worked when people were excited by them. I guess we're all kind of hoping it's some sort of primer for this collection. And if that is why they did it without any announcement, because the announcement is going to sort of be for the collection, and then the collection is going to work as it should do, and they fixed this problem and nipped it in the bud before they start making a big deal out of everything, that would be lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess we will see, because we have not seen thus far.
No, we have not seen, which kind of brings us to the main talking points of today's show. So, yeah, it was showcase season. There was a distinct lack of Gears of War, which we'll sort of focus on that in a minute. But first, showcase-wise, Alex, was there anything you saw across, any of those showcases that caught your eye? Any other games that are coming in the future that got you excited?
I've got quite a big list here, so I guess if
Hit me.
anybody agrees with it,
Yeah.
then yeah, jump on in. I was really pleasantly surprised by that Prince of Persia: The Lost
Yes.
Crown.
It's another thing we said before you joined the call, Ubisoft being Ubisoft, and then they had a really strong showing of games, including that Prince of Persia, which looks banging.
Yeah, it's made by the guys who did the Rayman Legends and Origins, which I didn't realise till later on, so that makes it even more exciting to me. I don't know how well it's going to do. I don't know if that's what people want.
Yeah,
and then people may potentially be upset that they're not just bringing out, because they announced the remaster of Sands of Time years ago.
Yep.
We've heard absolutely nothing, including at their showcase this time. But this was a really nice surprise, because we love a Metroidvania over at the other podcast, The Winner Is You. I love them. This looks like it's got some really cool time manipulation stuff going on in it as well. So I think it's going to be a real blast, and it should be cheap and quick to finish.
Yeah,
so.
And it's funny because this is like OG Prince of Persia. I think it's some people that never experienced that original. It's like one of the first video games I ever played, the original Prince of Persia.
Yeah, and it will feel like it as well. But if you play it now, it probably feels like the first video game ever made.
Yeah.
It's so old and clunky.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just cool to see them going back to that sort of style. But yeah, so I completely agree. I'm very excited for that.
It's no surprise whatsoever that both the Like a Dragon games are of extreme importance to me. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Gaiden, I guess it's going to be, I can't really play that because I haven't played all the original 6 yet. I'm only up to 4. And it's supposed to be a bridge between 6 and then 7, where this new protagonist, Ichiban, came in, and it went turn-based RPG, which is what will carry on in Infinite Wealth, which is effectively Yakuza 8. So I really liked that trailer for Infinite Wealth as well, where he's just naked in Hawaii.
Superb.
Just even without the head guy who was at the head of the studio for a long time, recently left. Even without him there, they've not lost their way.
Yeah, we did a first aid spray thing, and I said that trailer, I think that generated a lot. It did a lot for Yakuza, more than anything else for Yakuza in the past couple of years. It was just something about that trailer that got people talking, and it was funny and sort of kind of caught people off guard. So yeah, very excited about that.
Yeah. What about, speaking of first aid spray, I guess you guys must have talked about Capcom quite a lot on there. What does everybody think about Dragon's Dogma 2? Because I'm hyped for that.
Yeah.
The first game is really good, but probably not that great to play anymore. But the second game, if they've tidied that up, should be fantastic.
I think the fact they're bringing, Capcom, we did talk about it. I mean, that showcase that they did, it was crap overall. Generally, the Capcom
it was terrible. Yeah.
It wasn't needed. But Dragon's Dogma 2, Capcom have been on a bit of a roll with their games in recent years, and the fact they're bringing that back as well, it's just all a good thing. Capcom are one of the strongest. It's weird calling them an independent studio, third-party publishers. You struggle to think of somebody bigger. They're out there in a league of their own, so they do really good stuff. And they showed no Resident Evil DLC or anything, which is a bit disappointing, but
Yeah.
What else was I going to say?
Yeah, that was a massive letdown, that whole thing.
They'd
given away their trailers for most of the stuff already. It was all just repeating stuff.
They did.
Both the Yakuza trailers were the same thing again.
And the new IP that everyone thought was Onimusha at first, but then it wasn't. That debuted at the Xbox showcase.
Oh yeah, that'd have been so great. I still don't really know what that is. Like a floaty scarf waving painting.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
Game, I don't know.
I'm not sure, but it was interesting that just see at the Xbox showcase the amount of Japanese kind of stuff on show, which we know for a long time that Xbox has been struggling to sort of make headway in that market, and clearly now they're making great progress. And so that, I thought that was nice to see, and that was a good thing for Xbox. But in terms of other things, I mean, you probably got some more. Feel free to carry on. But I mean,
I will.
I was very excited about Sonic Superstars, the Shredder's Revenge DLC as well. Starfield, I thought, was in a league of its own in terms of games that was shown. I just think,
prompted you to start a podcast about it, right?
So my buddy Eric was just like, "Oh, I'm doing a podcast," and I just sort of said, "Yeah, good luck with that." And then I sort of thought more and more. I was like, what am I doing? Am I kidding? I'm going to be on that as well. So he he has very much taken the lead on that show, and I'm sort of recording my segments and submitting them to him because, yeah, that got me very excited. You know, I can't think of many games showcases that looked better than that. You know, from across the years, it's up there with the best. It answered all my questions about the game. You know, I'm a Bethesda fanboy and love Fallout and all that kind of stuff, so it's right up my street. But yeah, it's funny because I'm excited about Starfield, but then Sonic Superstars and the DLC for Shredder's Revenge, which are two games. Again, when I saw those trailers, I was like, I'm really excited about these franchises. You know, I always get excited about Sonic, you know, despite the ups and downs. But again, my kid loves Sonic, and my kid absolutely loves Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Shredder's Revenge is like his favorite game. So I showed him the trailer. I was like, look, new characters. And it blows his mind. So that helps me. It gets me more excited about stuff that I otherwise may not have been as excited about. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I took away from it. But sorry, I know you were going through some games. What else was getting you excited?
Well, we can talk about Sonic for a little bit if you want, because, you know, they did this type of game, albeit terribly, with Sonic 4. So it's kind of like Mario. We can talk about that as well. Mario Wonder, that and the new Sonic game, they both look like they're probably going to be fun, and I'm probably going to buy both of them. Yeah. But are they what either of the franchises need? I'd say it's probably what Sonic needs, maybe more than Mario.
Yes. Yeah.
Sonic, I was slightly disappointed to see that it wasn't Christian Whitehead's guys doing another, basically Sonic Mania 2. Yeah. I probably would have preferred that.
Yep.
Although they do look like they've added some new mechanics and they've got some ideas that have been brewing in there, that, you know, swimming up the waterfalls and running on the walls and stuff. So hopefully they do a better job with it now than they did before. Mario Wonder, 2D Mario's needed a massive overhaul for probably more than a decade at this point, because the new Super Mario Brothers games are all like, I'm going to steal a quote from a different podcast here, but they're all basically like 7 out of 10s. Yeah. And that should never happen to a mainline Mario game. That just should not be the case. So that game, adding in a bit of, you know, quirky stuff, slightly different graphical style, but not anywhere near enough. Like, I really would love them to do the Rayman Origins Legends route of just something really stylized and cartoony, rather than this sort of really bland looking 2.5D.
The problem with
the
new Super Mario Brothers games to me is, like, if you look at the older, better 2D Mario games, there's a flow to them. And I find that the new Super Mario Brothers games they almost run at like 3/4 speed. It feels like when I'm playing them, like Mario just isn't quite responsive enough. He's not quite snappy enough. He's not in the screen, doesn't move quickly enough. And I think that's probably because they've added the co-op element to it. And if you had the speed of like Super Mario World to it, it would probably be quite unwieldy to play in co-op. But there's just something ever so slightly off about these ones, and based purely on one trailer, I'm not sure that I've seen enough in that trailer to suggest that they're going to fix that issue and it's going to continue. So you're right, it's probably going to be absolutely fine, but there's nothing on this. There should never be a fine Mario game. They should all be fantastic. I'm not jiving with that art style either. I was listening to the Video Games Chronicle podcast, and they were saying how it looks nice and fresh. It looks sickly sweet. I can almost feel like my teeth rotting just watching the trailer. Like it's not for me, unfortunately, which I'm really sad about, because I was saying, I think it was you I said to before, Alex, is I've got a vague memory of really loving it when they rebooted the 2D Mario games, and I was really having a great time with them. And then I got New Super Mario Brothers on Switch about a year ago probably, and I was replaying it, and I was like, actually, I don't know what's happened, but I'm not enjoying this. And yeah, I think this looks like it's going to continue that, unfortunately. But I want to be wrong. I really want to be wrong.
Yeah. That was the worst one of all, that Wii U one. That's where it really just became just cranking out stuff that seemed really low effort. There was nothing original about any of it anymore. They were just they knew they were going to sell tons. Maybe not on the Wii U. That was probably a bit of an oversight there. But certainly the DS ones, I know they sold crazy numbers, which is probably why they carried on doing it as they did. And the Wii one probably sold crazy numbers as well. I'm pretty sure it sold more than Galaxy, which is bizarre. And I worry that the adding of co-op in there, which is what they're doing to Sonic, will have the same effect that you've just mentioned, ruined or at least hampered some of these 2D Mario ones in the last few years.
Yeah, that's definitely the. I mean, it could be a sticking point, but as I say, in terms of me playing it, like I would approach the game differently with playing it with my son, where like it is just kind of messing about and having fun, and he will absolutely love it if we're both on the screen at the same time and doing stuff. I think, like you said, Alex, I would have loved a Sonic Mania 2. I think this is the closest we're going to get to that. I don't think it will be as bad as I don't think it'll be anywhere near as bad as what 4 was. 4 was just like, 4 was broken in lots of ways.
Yeah.
Amazing final boss fight though, I will say. But yeah, so I am excited, but again, I agree with the Mario stuff. When that trailer come up, because I actually saw people going nuts about it before I saw the trailer, because I watched the Nintendo Direct after.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, people are going mad about this elephant Mario and stuff. I was like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
And then I watched the trailer and I was like, is that it? I was like, it felt a little bit...
I kept expecting it to do something.
Yeah.
Like, I saw people going wild about it. I was like, I'm going to see what...
a bit lifeless to me,
doing in
I
a minute.
thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do not like this trend of box art covers that look like PNGs as well, with half of the artwork missing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where Nintendo do this with their Mario games. 3D Land did it as well, where it's like it's half like a piece of artwork and then it's just got the grey and white squares. Like it just it's just a stupid thing to get hung up on. I know, but I saw it again. I was like, why are they doing this? They're still doing this, but sorry. Anything else, David? Did you have anything else that caught your eye at the showcases overall?
Oh, hang on. We should probably talk about Witchfire, right? Because that is People Can Fly. Well, it's developed by the Astronauts, which is 3 of the guys who started People Can Fly and then left when they got bought out by Epic.
Right, okay. I didn't know that.
So I guess that's slightly Gears adjacent,
Yeah,
I suppose, if we weren't going to touch on that.
Yeah.
Witchfire is one that I'm tentatively excited about, but does everybody know the game I'm talking about?
Yeah, I would put myself in the tentative excitement. I think there's enough in that gameplay to look interesting. Not enough for me to say I'm completely sold on it.
Oh yeah,
it looked a bit empty, didn't it? It looked very like Doom 2016 style of it's just going to be enemy encounters and nothing.
It looks quite frantic, and yeah, I like the look of the art style. If it looks like that by the time it comes to launch, it's got a really quite effective. It's really up my street that way it looks, and like you're saying, the boss fights looked quite frantic in a way I'm quite on board with. I just don't know if I'm just not feeling I've had enough of a taste of it. But you're right, there's a bit of Doom about it, isn't it? It's like fantasy Doom almost.
Yeah, exactly.
David, on our last episode with the predictions, you said you wanted to see something for Fable, which we did get. Did you have any thoughts on the Fable trailer?
I mean, no. Yes, that's a lie. That is a lie. I'm glad we finally saw something about it. It means that it's ticking along at least. I don't think I felt that we saw enough of it to be able to feel good or bad necessarily about it. The trailer feels like a Fable trailer, like the sort of tone it's shooting for is like Fable. I would have liked to have seen like a dog or something to really finish it off, or maybe like a farting door or something like that. Like a locked door. It's like the sort of whimsy that Fable is known for is certainly present there, and the giant thing looked cool. Enough for me to want to see more of it, but I don't know that to open up a showcase that Microsoft had said that they didn't say it was going to be all gameplay. Did they say it was all going to be in engine? Yeah, that felt like they were pushing that to the absolute extremes to get away with that. Like it that was a tone piece, wasn't it? And I don't know how old's that. The announcement 4 or 5 years now. We've been waiting. Yeah, and that's what we've had.
I think the game's probably a couple of years out because everything got. Most things got launch windows or launch dates, but Fable didn't. So
nothing.
It's not. It didn't say 2024, so it's
probably
2025 earliest, there was like little snippets. I've seen the developers talk about it and say, everyone thinks there's no gameplay in here, but there is. And if you watch it, you can see some combat and stuff like that's maybe lacking a HUD.
Yeah.
So there's little looks at the gameplay, and it definitely it looked interesting. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't announce a collection, because in terms of other collections, there's a rumoured remastered collection of the original 3 games, which people thought was going to come out, because I'm holding off playing through all of them until that comes out.
That's something I tried to play the original Halo Fable recently, and it is sort of, that's one that could do with a bit of touching up around the edges, because controls wise it feels quite old, it's quite clunky, and it's not actually as fun anymore. So that's one that could maybe do if they're wanting to try and get people interested in Fable, because that's the thing also, is it's been so long now. I think it's 2008 since we had a Fable game, so it's been so long since we've had a Fable game. The people who are excited for the IP of Fable must be quite niche now. It's all people our age that can remember the old ones, and like they need to find a way to get people hyped about this franchise coming back. Because as it is, I'm not sure they've been gone so long now, and this IP's been quiet since the announcement for so long.
I think
that we need to see more about it, and we also need to make sure we need to feel good about it as well. Because obviously, Lionhead Studios doesn't exist anymore, so we need to know that it's in the right hands.
With Playground, yeah, I think you're spot on, and I actually think they know that, and I think they sort of nailed it a little bit by getting Richard Ayoade to be in it, because it was like, let's start with this recognisable guy, this comedian, and that's going to make people sit up and take notice. And I think that helped them in a big way. I think if he wasn't part of that trailer, it probably would have.
This is something
flopped.
I'm quite happy to defer to you guys on it. Richard Ayoade, how popular is he with the demographic that you need to be making aware of Fable? Because like I'm aware of Fable, and I'm aware of Richard Ayoade from like the IT crowd and stuff like that. But again, that's my age. That's not I very much doubt the younguns are sitting watching Richard Ayoade.
No, you're right, but I do think there's something about him that's just kind of weird and unique. His voice and his mannerisms. I think he's definitely
his comedy.
It's definitely
fits
very
with
good
Fable.
casting.
That's right, Alex. Exactly, really good casting with that. So I think that helps them in a big way. And IT Crowd, the British version, is huge in America as well. Because I was listening to listened to a lot of other podcasts with their reviews of the showcases and stuff, and loads of people I was like, are they going to know who this guy is? No, they all know who he is. It's big in America, so yeah, he is.
They tried to bring it out over there, didn't they? They did a couple of pilots.
They did, and he was in it,
and it absolutely flopped.
He was in the American version, which is really strange. But yeah, right. Let's. We could do like another hour on Showcase, but let's.
Can I do two?
Sorry,
quickly?
Yes, yeah.
Before we move on,
as long as one of them is Clockwork Revolution.
That wasn't going to be one, but that is maybe one we need to look at. Remnant is one that wasn't going to be one, but I just want to say the name and then we'll move on. And because we're doing a Gears podcast, I thought it's worth mentioning that Space Marine game that's coming out, the Warhammer one, because that looks in the absence of a new Gears game, this is probably the best we're going to get in the near future.
Yeah,
that's probably worth a look. It looks very good.
Yeah.
And the other one is Alan Wake 2. Is probably my takeaway from the whole week of games. That game looks. Legit.
It does look awesome. It's apparently there's going to be two camp, like you can play 2 games or 2 campaigns, like so there's going to be 2 playable.
You play as 2 different people,
and you can switch. Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, you can sort of basically ignore one if you so choose.
It's coming to a winner review later this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Clockwork. Was it Clockwork Revolution? Yeah. So David and I sort of watched the showcase together. I mean, we were messaging over Discord, and when that trailer came up, we're like, "Oh, a new BioShock," and it's like, "Oh, this looks great. They've kept this quiet." And it's just like it wasn't until the very end. It was like, "Oh no, it's not BioShock," but that doesn't matter. I mean, it looks really, really good, and I think. Did that say that was coming out next? Did that have a release date? I think that might be next year as well, or did it not?
I can't remember, but I think I put this in my list of sort of tentative stuff because I've never played a game by In Exile, really.
Yeah. What do they do?
Developer, they
Wasteland
make the
and stuff, don't they?
Wasteland and the Bard's Tale.
Yeah.
So they don't really seem to have much of an FPS pedigree.
No.
So
not in the genre. No, they make quite popular games, but not
not
in this genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Yeah,
it was a
that's where I'm up in
surprise.
the air on it,
A
but
surprise.
visually
showing.
looked fantastic.
Yeah, it really, really did. Yeah. So overall, like, yeah, there was loads of good stuff on show, as I said, but also no Gears of War. You know, I fell into sort of the hype, train, or I got suckered in before the showcase, where I really believed there was going to be. I didn't think we were going to see a trailer for Gear 6, but I thought we were going to get an announcement. I thought we were going to get a reveal for something, be that a collection or a Gear 6. And we got nothing. So I was very surprised about that. So in terms of Gears of War, I came out of it thinking, what's next? Because my first thought was, right, no Gears of War here. Does that mean we're waiting another year for any kind of news? Because for Xbox's showcase next year, obviously we have coming up, we have the Game Awards. What else? I mean, they could possibly do an announcement at the Game Awards. So, yeah, I came away a little...
When's that?
That would be November, December, I guess, end of the year.
Okay.
So, yeah, I came away feeling
Potentially
a little bit deflated. I did do a poll on Twitter as well, where I asked our followers, I said, what project do you think is going to arrive first? I said a new game, the Netflix movie, or the animated TV series. And a new game won with 44.2%. And I wanted to put this out there because, yeah, that's the question. What's next? If the game, I think if the collection existed, I think it would have been announced. I mean, I'm starting to come around to the idea that maybe it doesn't exist anymore. I think Gears 6 is definitely being developed, but clearly it's a long way away. So, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, a lot of the fans think a new game is still coming before a movie and a TV series. But, yeah, Alex, no Gears of War at the showcase at all. Nothing. It's all very quiet. What do you think's next? Do you think this is a bad thing? Do you think they should have announced something if it's being developed, or fine to just wait and see?
It would certainly have helped our content if they did, right?
Yeah.
We were all banking on that,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm now more upset about it. I was definitely more conscious of thinking about it because of this podcast than I would have been if we weren't on it anymore.
Yeah.
It just felt like they were trying to put some steam behind Gears with all these announcements earlier in the year for the TV show and the animated, the movie and the animated show. And then it just felt like it was the right moment to keep that hype train moving.
Yep.
If that's something they actually could show, they had anything tangible to actually put out there. I am with you where I'm not sure that they do have anything to show us anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame.
Yeah.
Because the collection doesn't seem like it could have, it would have taken too much development time to do. I don't know. It depends how much they put into it. But really just, they've put these, like we said earlier on, they've put these servers back on for 3 and Judgment, which almost suggests that it's priming it for something bigger than what it already is. But we're going to have to wait to find out if there is anything there. So I was very disappointed in that.
Yeah. I came round to the idea of a collection, whereas I initially think it wasn't needed, it didn't exist, and then I got caught up. I was like, yeah, no, actually, this would be the win. It's an easy win for Xbox. Do it, even if the coalition outsource it to somebody else. Do it. And like you said, coming off the back of all the announcements and the movie, the card game, little bits here and there just popping up. Why not?
The card game, yeah.
Xbox with an already really strong showcase, just announce that it's coming. I mean, yeah. So a collection. I'm now back to feeling like it doesn't exist. I think maybe they're just that server thing for Judgment and Gears 3. It's like, oh, what else can we do that's going to keep people happy instead? So I don't know. So I've kind of circled back round. And yeah, I think even if Gears 6 was... I'm happy to wait. Like, I don't rush the games. That's fine. But as far as I'm concerned, there's no harm in announcing officially that, yeah, it's being developed. They announced other games with, like, little trailers and didn't give release dates and stuff. I think we all kind of assume Gears 6 is being developed. So give us one shot. Just give a title card. Give a logo or something. I was kind of stunned that there was nothing, and maybe that's just me being an idiot, I suppose, and I got caught up in the hype. But yeah, David, did you have any thoughts? Was this the right move? Do you think they should have announced something if it's being worked on, or are they right to bide their time and wait till possibly even next year to announce anything for Gears?
I think if they had something, they should have announced it. Because now I'm sitting thinking, do they have anything? How far away is Gears 6? And I'm actually left a little bit confused about the whole series, if I'm honest, because when they announced the Netflix series and stuff like that, like I was like, okay, so they do have plans for Gears of War. It's not just going to go away and sort of rot away in a corner. Now they've sort of announced it, and obviously they're not going to let it rot away in a corner. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, but it just seems confused to me now that we're not getting. There's no games being discussed, and it's been a long time since we've had a game. They've announced the Netflix stuff, and then they've just sort of abandoned it to next. Not, you know what I'm getting at, and they've just sort of not mentioned it for ages. And I'm just like, well, why is the community being left in limbo like this? Like, tell us what you're doing. What are your plans? Like, if you're like, right, we've had to go away and rethink the game, just tell us, so at least we know. Because at the moment, getting fed nothing just lets us think that it's like, do you even care anymore?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it feels like a little bit. And yeah, I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest.
Yeah. I do my best. Like, I can be very cynical about stuff, but I try to remain like on the positive side. I think, there's no harm in being positive and trying to get hyped up on stuff. But it was so surprising. Now, I listened to Rod. So Rod Ferguson used to run, head of the studio at Coalition, now runs Diablo. He was on an IGN podcast talking about Diablo, and they spoke about Gears of War a lot for a good 20 minutes of that podcast. And he said the reason he left the Coalition he'd come to a point in his career where he was basically putting out a game like almost every year, shipping a game like, whether that's even like a mobile game like they did Gears Pop and stuff, like he was counting that. And I think they shipped like 4 Gears games in 5 years or something. And he realized through the pandemic and everything, there was a point where and with the change into the next generation and moving to Unreal 5, he was faced with this situation where, and this was in 2019, he said it's going to be 5 years before the next Gears of War game comes out. And he was like, I don't want to wait 5 years. I'm going to go jump on board with Diablo. And I think they then put out, developed Diablo Immortal and Diablo 4 and all that. And so he left, he joined them. Pandemic happened. Obviously, everything got delayed by. You could maybe add a 2-year delay to everything, but he's basically was implying that the change to Unreal 5 was a bigger task than people sort of realize, and to deliver what Gears is at the level that people expect, was going to take years and years and years. So, yeah, it's a long way away. Now, that was 2019. We're 2023 now. The pandemic delay, you could think, how much have they got done at all? Potentially nothing. I don't know. I mean, and this means that Gears 6 is maybe another 3 years away. So I sort of understand his reasons for leaving and all that. And I have faith that the Coalition are good with Unreal, and I'm happy to wait. But yeah, just kind of surprised, even if it's 2 or 3 years away, that we didn't get an announcement. We've got it for other games and other franchises. I might make myself sound really stupid here, but I don't actually know who is leading Gears of War at the moment. I
don't know either.
I feel like...
Well, while you look for that, I mean, I will point out that we obviously are now in a very different era when it comes to announcements from platform holders. It doesn't have to be just compressed into E3 season. Nintendo obviously are a very big proponent of just doing it whenever they've got a significant amount of things to announce. Sony have done it as well in the last few years. So it's not completely the end of, we're not totally cutting off any announcement for this year for Gears. As you say, the Game Awards is coming up, but there's nothing to stop Microsoft from doing something later on in the year.
No.
Maybe that's just me trying to be a bit...
No, I think you're spot on there. I guess the caveat I would chuck in with that is that looking around at other Microsoft IP there's a, whether fair or not, there's a feeling at the moment where that their IP is sort of languishing and struggling a little bit. I mean, look at the way Halo's been struggling along at the moment. Like you're saying, Gears of War has been silent. How long has Fable been silent for? Is Hollow Knight something to do with Microsoft? Like, where's that been for the last 2 years? Like, both supporting and getting their games out the door. Redfall's another one. Like, they've struggled, and these are also from franchises that are either out or have games coming. to not even have heard something about this yet is frustrating.
Yes, it really, really is. I know they're recruiting. Like, this was the thing late last year or early in the year. People noticed that there was job ads going up and stuff. So they're definitely crewing up. Rod said that he also wrote the premise for the game before he left, but he's like, they've probably binned that off now and are going a different route. But yeah, so I, just to sort of, sum up on that, just very, very surprised because we hear about games years in advance. And like you said, Alex, maybe we'll get something later in the year. I think
hopefully.
I hate sounding like spoiled and like I'm not owed anything, but I think we should. I mean, are we really going to get nothing until next June? I mean, that just feels like
that would be a real misstep.
Yeah. So so what is next? Lots of people think it's a new game, but at this rate, the movie might be along first. So we'll keep following the news and obviously bring it to you in the Coghole here on the podcast. Now, there was some other...
I suppose worryingly, Twisted Metal's just had a TV show come out that has no ties to any video game that's coming either. So, unfortunately, there's precedent there for just people just churning out some shit TV for a video game.
Is that Samoa Joe?
It is Samoa Joe,
playing Sweet Tooth, but not doing the voice. The voice is, done by another actor.
The old Darth Vader treatment.
Yeah. It's funny you mention that because it's the same with Fallout. Like, I was on the Fallout podcast making predictions saying, I really think we're going to get a trailer for the Fallout TV show. And a lot of people were really annoyed that Sony showed a trailer for Gran Turismo at their games showcases. Like, it's supposed to be about games, not the movies. But that Gran Turismo trailer had already come out. You know, people had already seen it. Whereas Fallout, nobody has seen anything. We've seen like a single frame from the TV show. And I thought that would have been a good thing to do. And I really hope that they tie in with something with Fallout 76 and do a cross promotion. But come and listen to Tapes from the Waste from more of my Fallout talk. But there was some other kind of news thing, and this could have been in the Coghole, but I thought we'll move it to a talking point on the podcast. So you've mentioned them already. People Can Fly, studio behind Bulletstorm and Outriders. They apparently have been handed a Microsoft IP to develop a new game with a modest budget of about $50 million, which, a modest $50 million in gaming terms. That's not that much. The people behind, our beloved Gears of War Judgment, go and listen to our retrospective episode for more thoughts on that. Alex, a Microsoft IP, could this be a Gears of War spin-off? Could it be something else? Any thoughts about this, or what would you like to see them do?
Could he just as easily be Blinks 3, though, right?
We live in hope. Yeah, we live and dream.
What's that plane game that was on original Xbox? Crimson Skies, is it?
Crimson Skies, yeah.
I'd rather it was that than a spin-off. Crimson Skies is great. The consensus does seem to think that they're the ones that will be handling the collection, isn't it? That's
potentially,
$50 million will probably get you done for that, and off you go. And it's a Gears IP, and they said it was some kind of action related. They mentioned that, I think, somewhere in the description of what they're working on. But who knows when we're going to hear about what that is? Again, maybe we would have heard about it already by now. What have they done since Outriders? Obviously nothing.
No.
Certainly not supporting that game. Be nice. Yeah, anything Gears related would be lovely. I'm just not sure. I think they'd have said it if it was.
I'm just surprised.
That's going to get the biggest reaction, right? So
Yeah. I'm just surprised. What this made me think about is that there hasn't been more Gears spin-offs. When you think of something like Halo with like Reach and stuff like that. Now, I know we had Gears...
And ODST,
yeah. We had Gears Tactics, which is an awesome game. But it just feels like maybe Gears has sort of set itself up for a difficult... It's in a difficult situation where the production value is so high end that to do a spin-off is difficult and potentially going to disappoint anybody. Like, I would take a Gears spin-off of anything. Like, say, we could take a strategy game. Like, people have often suggested a potential Gears RPG where you play as a stranded and you could have maybe a first-person Gears or something like that. I mean...
Oh, yeah, like base management stuff would work with Stranded.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah, so when I hear stuff like this, I'm like, ooh, maybe finally, this is the way to get into the Gears spin-offs, because, you don't have to play them. You still got the mainline games if you want, but I love to see franchises do different things, and I think you kind of need to, to keep, like we're talking today, like there's nothing for Gears of War, nothing for another year. All right, if we're not going to get Gears 6 till 2025 or 2026, fine. But if there's, this weird little base building game or something Gears of War, yeah, give it to me. So Judgment, people can fly in Judgment. They're, whatever you think about that, who knows, and how they handle Gears of War, but they don't have to go that route. They could do something different. And I hope it is. I don't think it's going to be Halo. Halo, I feel like just reboot the entire thing at this point. I'm not sure where that game goes from here beyond adding a battle royale mode and trying to sort of chase the trends that other people are doing. I think Halo, is in a weird place.
Make it an extraction shooter. That seems to be the next big thing after battle royale.
So I really hope this is Gears of War. David, did you?
People have been suggesting that 343 are going to get the Halo license taken off them, aren't they? So,
it's I don't want to be one of these people that says, get it away from them. I don't. I liked. I've said before, Halo Infinite. Playing the game, and it feels super tight. The gameplay is awesome. So it's not.
I enjoyed it. I just had no compunction to ever go back to it once I finished the campaign.
It's just a wider issue about post-launch support and stuff like that. So they're fine making games, but I don't think this is a Halo franchise. I feel like it is very possible it could be Gears of War. Maybe I'm kidding myself, but David, did you have any more thoughts about this? What do you think about Gears spin-offs and People Can Fly potentially? Or is there another Microsoft IP that you're just desperate to come out of the woodwork and hope that this can be
looking at the games People Can Fly make, even their non-Gears stuff is quite Gears-esque. So, and I want to see what they're going to do. But I kind of agree with Alex. If it was going to be Gears, why wouldn't they have told us that? So, I guess wait and see.
Wait and see, yeah.
Yeah.
Blinks 3. You heard it here
but
first.
You're right in terms of spin-offs. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's what I was going to say, and then my mind went blank. You're right. Like the sort of big numbered Gears game is what you would expect their sort of big budget stuff to go into, and the stuff that would sort of push forward and look the best and play the best, and even like advance the story in some meaningful way. But I don't know, maybe I just don't understand game development, but looking about how they used to make Gears of War games, there's no reason why you can't go and like make smaller, more digestible titles in the meantime while we wait for bigger stuff, whether that's the remake or games like Judgment, because there's a space for those games and it sort of keeps your franchise ticking along.
Agreed.
Because that's what I think we're seeing with a lot of the Microsoft stuff at the moment, letting your big sort of stuff go away for too long is not actually good for the health of the IP necessarily.
Kind of connected to that. So I did do another tweet on the Gears Intel Twitter account where I just wanted to see what everybody else was thinking, if they had obviously thoughts about what's next, and do they think that People Can Fly are doing something for Gears of War. And so one of the first suggestions by XGP Reviews on Twitter said, I'd like to see a map where all the locations are combined and we have larger teams, changing up the 5v5 standard to a 15v15, make it feel like a huge war zone. Now, I guess this idea of, I've said Battle Royale already, but some kind of standalone multiplayer thing is not off the table. It's what everybody else, Apex has done it and stuff, and split off from Titanfall and all this kind of thing. So I actually don't think, of all the responses I've seen, this is one of the potentially most likely for Gears of War, where I've thought for a while they're going to split out the campaign and the multiplayer, because as a package, people aren't going to buy the game. It's going to be on Game Pass. You can release things differently. Games already do that. Here's the campaign. Here's the multiplayer. This is even a different install, a different thing that you launch. So, I don't know, Alex, would you like to see a larger Battlefield Warzone style, Gears of War mode? Is that something that could be released independently of a mainline game?
I'm not sure it would go down well if it was released independently of a mainline game. I don't think that's going to satiate the hunger for another Gears or a Gears collection to just bring out some sort of maybe like free-to-play, larger multiplayer thing. Mm-hmm. If it was part of the Gears 6, then yeah.
Yeah.
I I like his idea where he's added later on that adding vehicles and anti-vehicle weapons would be quite fun. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Get it feeling, I guess, more Halo-like in that regard. But I need to get back into the multiplayer before I have any real thoughts or excitement around what they're going to do with it next, to be honest.
That's fair. Like, I just don't see... Yeah, I think I said on this show, I just think the package is going to be completely different. When Gears 6 launches, is it going to be campaign, multiplayer, horde, whatever? It's so expensive to make these games, and now when it's a Game Pass model, I think that does different things. Well, we're seeing it. They already did it with Halo, and this idea of seasons and seasonal content and stuff. It's, I don't want to say live service, but I feel like we could be going that route and separating it out. It's already potentially free to play if you count Game Pass as free with the other Gears games, but a free to play multiplayer with stuff like this, I do think is actually pretty possible. Yeah, David, do you want to see a Gears of War Battle Royale mode? Does that interest you?
Not overly. I would want to know what they're bringing to the table. I do think a lot of like the obviously I keep bashing Halo all the time. I do like Halo, but like for instance, like with the Halo Online stuff, they've obviously not supported their seasons well enough. But I think in addition to that, I think they've failed to get across to the player base is what they are actually bringing that's different from games that they're already playing. So like if you're talking about copying other more established stuff like Fortnite or Apex. Or Call of Duty and stuff like that, you're going to have to differentiate yourself in some way. So I would like to see how, I mean, if you're just making Battlefield out of Gears, I'm not sure that's enough to make people leave the games behind that they're already playing to go and play this. So I don't know if it's not necessarily impossible or something that you couldn't do and couldn't do well, but I would need to know how they're going to move things on and make it different. Yeah,
I mean, I don't play...
Also, sorry, my brain keeps...
No, that's fine.
Finding other stuff as well. I also look at like games that are popular just now, and like Battlefield, I think, is struggling. I think having big team stuff that is really difficult to have any sort of sway over the outcome of the match isn't big just now. It's more smaller squad-based stuff where people can have direct input and effect in a game. Like if you're one of 40 on a map, for example, if you have a good game, you could still lose. Whereas the smaller team stuff just now seems to be the way that the market's going. But then I've just said, don't follow. You've got to innovate. So what do I know?
I mean, for me personally, I don't play any of those games. So, you know, if that launched tomorrow, I'd be like, I'd try it, but I know that I would just be disheartened because it's not what I enjoy doing for the very reason you've said. It's just it's too chaotic. Maybe if you squad up with a couple of mates, it makes it. I think playing it alone. You two both play Apex quite a lot, or did. Do you ever play it alone? Is it even enjoyable playing it alone?
I never found it enjoyable when David wasn't around.
Yeah,
he played it alone a lot more than I did.
I did, yeah. But my I've not played it this season, and my mental state is vastly improved since I've been taking a break from that, so it's probably for the best that I leave that game alone for a little while.
Yeah.
Justin Poo 82 or Justin Powell. People Can Fly are probs working on the remastered collection to bridge the gap till Gears 6 is released. Well, yeah, this is what we've suggested. I think that would be, I think just do it. Like, you know, I've heard very conflicting things from a few of the Xbox insiders that I listen to and follow. There's people that are saying that the collection has existed for ages. There's people saying no, it only existed as of like this year, so it's still early in development. But I would like to hope, if this is People Can Fly thing is the collection, I'd be more than happy with that. I just think there's no reason to not do it at this point. Remakes, remasters, everything is just... It always sells. It always does well. It's an easy win. So, let's do it, please.
I think Alex's chat about the budget is pretty spot on, actually, and one I didn't really think about. It's quite a small budget, but it would sort of get them there with a collection. So, hopefully he's right.
Yeah.
It's a little bit tails between legs, though, isn't it, for People Can Fly, having gone and often made actual brand new IPs to now come back and just be, a team just pumping out some remasters of old games that other people made. It's a bit...
so
humbling, I guess, after Outriders completely bombed.
It's so difficult. I mean, it's difficult to make any impact with new IPs across anything. And, we're seeing games come out and shut down within years, you know, especially with the live service stuff. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to make anybody commit and to buy into playing new games. So why not just stick to the franchises that people know? So yeah, a Gears collection is probably
maybe that studio just pivoting away from what they've been doing so far, just to ground themselves a little bit more and build their stock back up again, because it's obviously going to be quite low after the last game that they put out.
So I know a few people that played Outriders quite a lot, and they said, "Oh, it's very Gears. It's like a bit of Gears of War is in there," and they sort of had good praise for it. But again, yeah, it's just if it doesn't have that player base and that impact, it's just going to die a death.
I feel like a broken record, but they made a fun gameplay loop, but just failed to back it up with content that was engaging and made you want to keep coming back to it.
Yeah, it's a shame. Ultra MSV on Twitter says, my mood around Gears of War at the moment is mixed because I'm not hyped and constantly waiting for the next Gears project as I would have been many years back. Still love the franchise, devour any game and book when it's available, but haven't played Gears multiplayer like I used to. They also say, correct me if I'm wrong, but was there a report about Gears Collection a while back? The Coalition have started it, right? Yeah, so I mean, yeah, one of the other things, tweets I did after the showcase had this kind of response, was quite similar, with lots of people saying, yeah, you know, mixed feelings, it's a shame, but lots of people happy to wait, and you know, we know that other stuff's coming and potentially there could be another book. I don't know, but I think there are a few people out there that are really angry, you know, and they're like, oh no, the franchise is dead, they've screwed it and stuff like that. I think that's ridiculous, you know, it's not dead. But I'm kind of quite in line with what Ultra's saying here. Yeah, a bit mixed, you know, with my hype. I'm sure I'll come back around soon. M Warrior says, thinking the next game's either going to be a spin-off or remastered collection. Nonetheless, I'm really excited and cautiously optimistic. To be honest, I just want something Gears related. I do know that our patience will be rewarded. Yes, so this is another thing I've heard from a couple of insiders. One in particular, so Jez Corden from Windows Central has basically said that he's heard nothing but incredible things coming out of the Coalition at the moment, and that people just need to be patient, and that your patience will be rewarded, and that some stuff is coming soon. So yeah, I do think we're potentially going to be blown away eventually when it does come. We just got to sit tight.
You're probably right. And you're right. There will be a Gears of War game eventually.
Yeah.
To all those people who are upset, I just want to say that as a lifelong Nintendo fan, like, I feel you. Like, where the is Metroid Prime 4? Where's F-Zero?
Yeah.
Like, I could go on. I feel you, boys. Like,
I can't believe Metroid...
My patience is not rewarded. So
after Metroid Prime Remastered come out, I thought, oh, well, there we go. Like, all the engines there, it's all put together. Like, surely Metroid Prime 4 is on the way. Like, you know, so we had Metroid Dread and then Metroid Prime Remastered. This direct, maybe finally Metroid Prime 4, and absolutely nothing. So that was another one that was, I say, as surprised there as I was about Gears of War. Or maybe I wasn't. Maybe, you know, maybe that game is dead.
I mean, Nintendo very clearly always say, oh, it's for games coming out this year.
Yeah.
So they lower your expectations beforehand, don't they? And then anything that surprise drops in it, everyone goes mad.
Yeah.
Like this Mario game.
Yeah. Right, let me just have another little look here at some of the feedback we got. Hope they don't make the collection. Judgment was garbage. Well, okay.
I don't think it's luckily, as we said earlier, I don't think it's the same people, so probably don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Either that or it's going to be even worse. Who knows?
Yeah. It's depressing getting no news for Gears of War. This is Cheeky Breaky on Twitter. Depressing getting no news for Gears of War. I know 5 had a very rough launch year, but it's still my favourite in the series. And to hear absolutely nothing about it is disheartening. Like most fans, when they lean into the grim nature of war battle moving forward, like I like of 1 to 3. Yeah, okay. It's funny. I hear a lot of people say, like 5, the launch year for 5, people moan because some of the multiplayer did have issues. And I remember whenever I see this kind of comment, I'm like, it just didn't bother me because I'm not. Although I do play the multiplayer a lot, I'm just not a hardcore multiplayer. So when there was these little issues with the online stuff, it didn't bother me, and I was too busy loving the campaign. So
that's why I basically just absolutely love it when a campaign for Gears comes along, chew through it, and then try and mess with the horde mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a co-op game for us, that's for sure.
Yes, but please do come and connect with us on Twitter. As always, we're always trying to find out what people think and get the opinions of the Gears of War community on the show. So yeah, it's a little disheartening, but I mean, as far as showcase season goes, there's so much to tide us over. I mean, I've said it before, there's too many games. I'm not going to struggle to find games to play before now and the next Gears of War game. Like, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, before we sign off today, I thought, and this wasn't in my notes, sorry, lads, but Alex, what would you say is what game are you most excited for that's come out of showcase season that you want to play?
Infinite Wealth.
Infinite Wealth, fair.
Yakuza, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, hands down.
Shout out to Steve from First Aid Spray. He's a huge Yakuza fan. I think he's on the same page as you there. Like
what up, Steve?
Yeah, he's very, very excited. David, what about you? What game are you most hyped for, most interested for? What's going to tide you over before the next Gears of War?
Probably Alan Wake 2 or Baldur's Gate 3. Really into those.
Oh yeah.
So,
that's soon, isn't it?
Yeah,
Baldur's
very
Gate 3?
soon.
Yeah.
For me,
You're the ones.
For me, it's going to be Starfield. I mean, I'm excited for Alan Wake 2 as well, but Starfield, I just think, come and listen to the Starfield Sandwich podcast where you'll hear me gush about it a bit more. But yeah, I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing with some of that stuff. And I know Bethesda games have their quirkiness and some people don't buy into it, but I think even if sci-fi RPGs aren't your thing, I don't know how you can't look at what they showed off and gone, wow, okay, this looks like, as long as this runs and works at launch, this is pretty impressive. So yeah, I cannot wait for Starfield.
It's going to take so long to play that game. I look at it and think, my God, that game's going to take like hundreds of hours.
It's
almost overwhelming before I've even started.
Yeah, this is the thing. I still play Fallout 76. I'm still playing the other Fallout games. I go back and I'm doing stuff in those Bethesda games that I've never done. You do play them for years. Skyrim is now one of the biggest selling games of all time. How many years later? Like 13 years later, it's sold 60 million copies.
15, isn't it? I think,
yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
It's like in the top, it's like the 7th biggest game of all time. And I think Bethesda, they have the opportunity there to potentially deliver something that people are going to be playing for years. So, yeah. It's going to keep me busy until the next Gears of War or the movie arrives or whatever. But whatever comes next, we'll be covering it here on the podcast. There will be more Gears of War stuff to talk about. We're going to have games to cover and books and comics and everything like that. There's loads of things to cover. So, yeah, feels like we're just getting started. There's going to be more stuff coming this year. So please do subscribe to the podcast. Oh, wait, I'm going to use my end line, which I'm going to try and... this needs to become a staple now. It's the one you invented, David. As a wise man once said, if you like what you heard today, and even if you didn't, please do consider subscribing to the podcast or on the YouTube channel and giving the video a like. Also consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. Come and join the conversation on Twitter at Gears_Intel. David is at David Smiley 1, Alex is at SuperThrillix, and I am at K_D_B_. We'll be back again for another episode soon. Until then, remember the fallen.